Where do I even begin? I've rewatched the gameplay demo from the old piece that they showcased at TennoCon 2025 3 times now to kind of analyze what is going on in there. And needless to say, there's a lot to digest, which we'll be getting into in this video, so stick around until the end as we are going to cover a lot of things. I'm going to take you over exactly what happens during that 20-odd minute gameplay demo in as short a time as I possibly can, and then we're going to get into some theories, which is 1, when is this happening? Where in the timeline does this actually fit? 2, what does this have to do with what is currently happening in Warframe? And 3, how is this going to change the future of Warframe? Does Albrecht have anything to do with this? Does the Indifference have anything to do with this? We don't know, but we will be finding this out together. So stick around and let's get into it. The story begins with what is seemingly the operator picking up a lotus flower, but this isn't just any lotus flower. These seem to be more mechanical than it is natural, and I think it symbolizes the mechanical yet living nature of the sentients. You then witness a gigantic sentient-looking being walk past as Excalibur stands up from being almost buried beneath the dirt. It seems like we will be playing as Excalibur Prime in this mission, but that is up for debate, as I've seen some comments saying that they think it might be the Warframe that you picked at the start. There are a lot of clues for the timeline here though. Notice how they are all Prime Warframes, but we'll get into that a little bit later. You then embark on a mission to stay out of sight from the sentient beings and even fight some of the smaller, less significant ones before you open up to a huge crater where you face off against the gigantic sentient being that we first saw in the beginning. Of course, soon you find out that this is not a war we are in the middle of, at least not yet, but rather a playful or training session between friends. Yes, you heard me correctly. You, the Tenno, are friends with a childlike but very powerful sentient called Adis. Then, much like in Assassin's Creed, you suddenly come back to reality with Lloyd helping you out of the water and the Lotus being attached to you as she tries to help you remember, well, something. Here, we officially found out.
Tau.
What stands out to me here is the line from the Lotus.
This is the only way we find.
It almost seems like she wants to either say find answers or maybe find Albrecht. This we do not know the answer for yet. Lloyd then proceeds to answer with flooding their heads with polluted histories, which implies that some of this might be fake, but later on he says some things are best forgotten, which might suggest the contrary. Yet again, we'll get into that a little bit later. The next scene is interesting. You find yourself in an academy on a Tau moon called Perida, where a massive hologram of Ballas recites the lines that were teased in the trailers.
We swore to carry the sacred light of our dominion into the deepest dark, and this we have done. Swear now to defend this holy treaty alongside our blessed and brave creations, the sentience of Tau.
So at least we now know where this comes from. This is also an indicator for where in the timeline this plays off. You as the Tenno proceeds to joke about the old war, but Adis does not seem to enjoy your enthusiasm as he quickly says that it is not a joke. This might say that the wounds are still very new, suggesting that the old war was not too long ago. We then find out that Caliban Prime would be the new Prime Warframe here and that he was created by the joined minds of the Tenno and the Sentients. But Daklo, as Cephalon, does not seem to like it, or the Sentients, as he addresses Adis as
Void Lugger,
which is very interesting considering a lugger is a type of transport ship and we know that the Sentients cannot reproduce if they travel through the void. But more on that later. The story continues as Adis apparently have a small vocal test that he needs to complete, with the Archimedium Itzam asking if he has adapted to the Tenno ways. This might suggest a form of control or change, but we don't know too much on that yet. The question is,
when the applications of Tauron are applied to Naramon's theories.
So the Naramon's theories, if I'm correct, essentially says that to truly be able to defeat an enemy, you should really know them. The Naramon school is also a school focused on assault, so this can also be a form of training, like we see when we first meet Adis. Rebecca, the creative director of Warframe, then suggests that the Sentients might have a lot more to do with your Tenno focus than you might think, which is also a key to a bigger picture and something to discuss altogether. The Archimedian then says that Adis will be tested by the 7, which are the 7 Orokin executors: Ballas, Avantis, Karish, to Vul and others we don't know of yet. But all of that gets interrupted by a distress call that sends you onto the Tau Moon Parida, where a big fight is happening between the treaty, which are you and the Sentients, and a rebel force called the Separatists, filled with Dax soldiers. This rebel force seems to want to break the treaty and force a war with the Orokin, which suggests that they know something that we do not know of yet. But here comes another very important detail for the Sentients and also for the Warframe universe. Adis, or otherwise known as Truth Bloom, seems to have the ability to heal other Sentients with a song, and he proceeds to sing the song that we've all been hearing in the trailers. This activates his ability to heal the sentient Xenosko. What I find funny and interesting is the way that Adis speaks. He cuts grammar short, only using the terms and vocab that actually matters in the situation. This might suggest that he is still very young and learning, or maybe that he can be a new generation of sentient beings that have evolved even further. We find our way to the summit, where we need to take out a massive missile launcher of the Separatists' army, but the way we do that is absolutely amazing as Adis calls out, "Yarata! Now Tenno!" And you make use of the new focus expansion of the Tenno and create a portal for Excalibur to pull out a massive sword and cut the machine in half in one sweep. Right after that amazing display of power, we also find out that the person talking to us the whole time seems to have been a part of the Separatists, as Galastra, a Separatist leader, calls him her old pet. After that though, you and Adis work your way up to a massive egg-shaped structure which Adis calls Golden Cursed and Precepting. This can be roughly translated to a structure that was used to train or guide individuals to do a certain task, often used in healthcare. This is where things start to take a turn, however, as Galastra says that peace can't abide the machines, and when you confront that statement, she answers by saying, "Let me show you why." You then both work your way through the middle of the structure that is also filled with old Orokin or sentient tech, and this is where Galastra gives a clue as to why they are doing all of this. She states, "The promise of a home, so lightly surrendered." You both then proceed to make it to a den at the bottom of the structure where a sentient being is held captive, and Galastra then orders it to repel the intruders. Suddenly, its eyes go from blue to yellow, and it's like it has been brainwashed into wanting to kill the Tenno. You proceed to go into this fight, with you at the end being forced to choose between you as the Warframe and the sentient being. You choose yourself and you stab through the sentient being, ending its life right there. Seeing as the sentients work in a hive mind, you have just killed one of Adis' kin, and instead of letting him heal the sentient, it is now dead. That is where you hear sobbing. And a heartbroken Adis taking off his humanoid mask. Just as you want to try to explain, you get pulled back into the present, trying to explain that it was either him or you. Both you and Lotus then look up as mechanisms start to shift, revealing a change. So at the end of the day, what actually happened, what is going to happen, and what is the future of Warframe entailing? Well, first of all, I want to actually get into something that has already happened in Warframe, something that we all might know of, or if you probably missed it, and I don't know, you missed it, but it is an actual line from Alad V, and it reads as follows. Yes, hurry Tenno, but be careful. Last time you got close with the sentients, you wiped out an entire civilization, but you don't remember that, do you? Now, obviously, of course, a lot of us know that the Warframes and the Tenno are essentially the reason for the downfall of the Orokin Empire, but we don't exactly know why. You know, a lot of people theorize that it's because of the cruel ways that the Orokin kind of ruled over the system, and they realized that it was really wrong, but we don't really know what exactly happened, and I think the old piece is going to shed a lot of light on all of that. So that is probably one of the big things that we are going to be learning in this new update, which is absolutely insane. Now let's actually get into when in the timeline is this actually happening. Well, my theory at least. And remember guys, all of this right now is my theories and what I think about what is going to happen. So if you have any ideas, theories, or maybe know something that I don't, let me know in the comment section down below. I love to hear from all of you, and I do read all my comments. Now let's get into it. I think the old peace happened right after the old war. Not during the old war, not before the old war, but right after the old war. I think the sentients went to the origin system and they fought the Orokin Empire, and bravely so, but the Orokin Empire replied by creating the Warframes and utilizing the Tenno's power to actually defeat a lot of the sentients, so they kind of shifted the balance of the war in their favor. Now, they sent a lot of the Warframes, Prime Warframes, for example, you can see that in Mag Prime's Codex entry, to Tau to actually fight the sentients on their home turf, and I think they came to a point where the sentients were like, okay, you know what, let's create a treaty. We don't want to fight anymore. We are tired of fighting. Let's actually work together. We're sorry. We don't want to do that anymore. And the Orokin Empire were like, okay, sure, you can do that, but, and this is big, but you're gonna do that under our rule. And obviously the sentients, being backed in a corner, were like, okay, fair enough. Let's work together. Let's create an era of peace. Or maybe the Orokin Empire found a way to manipulate or reprogram some of the sentients that were in charge. It has happened before, and it happened during the actual demo as well. And I think that is what the separatists are trying to tell us, the Tenno, that this can happen. And that there will never be absolute peace with the sentients, because in the wrong hands, the sentients still have a lot of power. The sentients still can be reprogrammed to fight against us, and that is why when we get to the X-shaped structure, they tell us, let me show you exactly why we can't work together. And they reprogrammed a sentient being to want to kill you. Because at the end of the day, even though they have gained sentience, as the name suggests, they are still machines. They are still essentially AI. And they can be reprogrammed. And with people at the helm, the 7 executors, you have Ballas, you have all the rest, maybe even people higher up, maybe some royalty or something, people in charge, they are smart, and I mean really smart. You have to remember, the Orokin Empire has some of the smartest people in the universe. You have Albrecht Intrati, probably the smartest, if not one of the smartest scientists alive in the Warframe universe. He is an Orokin. You have Ballas, extremely powerful and very smart, also creating Warframes. Even though it was cruel, it's still smart. They also developed the technology continuity to be able to transfer their consciousness into a younger body. You don't do that if you're not smart. These are really smart people. They might be cruel, they might be wrong, but they are smart. And I think they might have manipulated, brainwashed, mind-controlled the sentients to be able to do their bidding. And that's what Galastra is trying to tell you. And when you have defeated the sentient, when you have killed the sentient, even though you didn't want to, you are now in kind of a difficult situation. Adis is not gonna forgive you for that. Probably not. I think this is the start, a restart of the old war, or maybe a continuation of the old war. And this is where the Warframes will truly learn what the Orokin are, and how bad it actually is. Maybe they will find out that the Orokin is behind everything at the end of the day. Maybe they'll find out that Albrecht Intrati is behind everything. We don't really know what's going to happen. Anything can happen up until this point. But what we do know is the Tenno is at fault for wiping out an entire civilization. Are we talking about the Orokin Empire still? Or are we talking about the sentients on Tau? Because that is also a possibility. We don't know exactly what happened. We don't know what is going to happen. The only thing we do know for sure is that we are going back to the old piece. We are regaining a lot of our memories, and thanks to Lotus, of course, which I will be getting into in a second. And we are going back to Tau in the present day as well. That's probably going to happen somewhere in 2026, so it's still a long ways off, and we still have that whole journey that we need to actually get into. But we're going to Tau, to the present day Tau, and we're gonna see some things that we might not want to see. We're gonna see some things that we might want to see. We don't know what's gonna happen yet. Adis might be all grown up or compared to what he is right now, and that might be our new enemy until we realize that it's not. Now, getting back to Lotus, there is a very, very small snippet, it's a split second. When Lotus attaches to you and you go back into that memory, I don't know, hole, cave, whatever you want to call that, right? That memory fragment. There's a very small snippet where for a split second, you can see yourself without eyes. It looks absolutely horrendous. And I've seen a lot of people think that it's actually the Lotus. It's not Lotus, it's you, it's the Tenno. And I think what it is, it's a symbolization of you being blind to your own memories. You don't know what is happening yet, and what Lotus is trying to do is trying to open up your eyes to remember everything that has happened. What do you think is going to happen next? How do you think the indifference is going to play a role in this, or maybe even Albrecht Intrati? Because remember guys, Albrecht is in Tau. The last time we saw him in 1999, he said Tau is in sight, and he actually probably went to Tau. He knows how to get to Tau, and he has probably gone to Tau. And another clue towards that is, the first time you go out of the water, the first time Lloyd helps you out of the water, Lloyd and Lotus actually have some words for each other, and the Lotus says, but this is the only way we can find and then proceeds to get cut off by Lloyd. Is she talking about answers? Are they looking for Albrecht? We will find that out soon enough. In case if you guys enjoyed, slap a like on this video. 200 likes as always would be highly appreciated, and please subscribe to the channel. I am like 120 subs away from 10,000, which, by the way, thank you guys. I really appreciate all of your support and your continued watching of my videos. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave you with one last question, and that question is none other than, when you see your Warframe, when you dive into the story, do you ask yourself, do you want to play?